Welcome to CoSeCity, the podcast that demystifies corporate governance. I'm Neo.
And I'm Kako. If the words corporate governance make you think of boardroom, politics, and endless paperwork, we get it. But there's so much more to it than just that.
So this podcast is all about breaking it all down for you. So how businesses run effectively, what company secretaries or governance professionals actually do, and why corporate governance touches every part of a successful organization.
Exactly, Neo. And whether you're exploring your next career steps, considering a pivot into governance, or just wanting to understand how business operates behind the scenes, this is the space for you.
So no jargon, no lectures, just real talk, clear insights, and practical advice. So let's get into it, Kaka.
Who are we and how did we get here? So let's rewind for a second, Neo. How did you find your way into corporate governance, really?
How did I find my way into it? That question. So I originally studied law, but I knew very early on that I didn't want a traditional law career. Sorry, Mum. And my very first big girl job was in compliance, where I worked for a wealth management firm.
Oh, yeah.
Yep, that long ago. And this eventually led me into corporate governance. But what really hooked me in was how much of an impact governance has. So on business integrity, decision making, and of course, the long-term strategy.
Yeah, and mine, that's really interesting there, but mine was a little bit different. I started studying, my first degree was in international law and diplomacy. I wanted to work with international organizations, especially non-profits. I veered towards the path of alternative dispute resolution, ADR. I worked in mediation for a bit, and many of the cases we were getting presented with dealt with situations that involved, and it got me to think many of these disputes were avoidable. I also got thinking, who exactly within these businesses were responsible that the businesses had the right oversight of some of these issues? And I started exploring deeper. My research led me to corporate governance, company secretarial route. I then did my master's in law in corporate governance. And I was drawn into governance because of its mix of ethical leadership and strategic thinking. It's where I believe structure meets purpose of businesses and corporation.
Yeah, that is brilliant, Kako. Yeah, and that's exactly what led us to create CoSeCity. We wanted to share what we've learned over the years and also make governance less intimidating for anybody who's curious about it. Yeah. It's definitely the podcast that I would have wanted when I started way back when.
And so I guess here we are sorting out that needs for everyone else.
Exactly.
And for me, basically, with going back to our experience, for me, governance has always been more than just structure and compliance. It's about shaping how organizations think. It's about crafting organizations' purpose, how organizations behave and lead responsibility. My work sits at the intersection between, I believe, ethics, strategic impact, and also ensuring corporate compliance as well.
And you've done not just that locally, haven't you? But you've also done it on a global scale. So from corporate boards to international summits. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
And yes, over the years, I have worked directly or indirectly in 14 or so different countries. Supporting governance with businesses to also developing corporate and multilateral meetings with organizations, worked with organizations like the UN. I've also led and curated more than 20 high-level international conferences and summits on varying issues such as from governance to ESG to peace to sustainability as well. And as such, we've done some of these in Geneva, the UK Parliament, and across countries in Africa as well.
So am I allowed to ask which one was your favorite conference or?
you're asking a parent to pick their favorite baby here, which
You
is
don't
always
have
a
to
difficult
answer.
thing to do. So, I mean, different conference or different summit has its, good and bad sides. So you just take it as a learning experience and keep it moving.
No, understood. But honestly, that is impressive experience. But also, I understand you haven't just covered public sector work. You've also advised companies that are highly regulated. Do you want to go into that as well?
Absolutely, absolutely. Supporting governance framework across sectors. I've supported companies in mining industry, pharmaceutical industry, financial services, legal, cinema, and retail as well. I've worked with companies listed on the AIM market, the FTSE market, and also helping them build governance infrastructure um, as well in different phases.
Yeah, oh, that's so cool. I mean, it's so rare to find somebody who can move between policy making spaces and then private sector boardrooms at that level of ease. It's
You're
honestly.
flattering me now. But yeah, thanks. I think it's the common thread for me, I think, might be clarity, helping organizations understand what good governance looks like and how to embed them practically, whether it's advising on board composition, ESG strategy, or cross-border compliance. I'm passionate about making governance both strategic and accessible. Nia, I know you've been involved in so many different projects down the years. Can you share a bit more about your experience?
Yeah, of course. I mean, is this a part where we also mentioned that we've worked together at some point? Or should
I
we get into that later?
Yeah, we did, didn't we?
Yeah, so for my part, of course, yeah, having studied law, I sort of decided compliance was the way forward. And through my work, really, I've ended up working with FTSE 100 companies as well as AIM listed firms. And the focus was to strengthen their board processes, prepare regulatory responses and their governance reporting, so their annual reporting. I've also supported startups and private companies looking to future-proof their operations with scalable governance models. So it's about making sure that the governance framework grows with the company rather than an instance where your businesses start operations and then realize, oh gosh, what we have is not fit for purpose. So yeah. And what else have I done? Oh, and I think it's also good to mention that my experience also spans multiple jurisdictions as well.
Yes.
So the United Kingdom, Canada, the US, the Cayman Islands. So navigating regional regulatory landscapes and aligning businesses with global governance standards. So it's been quite a roller coaster ride, quite exciting.
Yeah, exactly. Um, and your advisory work with some clarity supporting trafficking survivors.
Yeah, yeah. So I
Am I
also.
am I think we had a conversation about that in the past. Would you be able to go into that a little bit?
Yeah, of course, of course. Yeah, so I also volunteer as an advisory board secretary. So the charity that I work with, so they support trafficking survivors, and it just shows you really how governance just touches every single aspect of our lives and how it is used to drive change in any setting. Um,
Yeah.
Definitely a charity that is close to my heart. I don't know if I'm allowed to say it on air, but
No, that's wonderful. That's wonderful, Neo. And I think that's the reason why we created this podcast. We want to bring more people into the governance conversation and to demonstrate how governance is multifaceted and
Mhm.
cuts across different industries and also different walks of life, especially those who never thought this space was from them, I think this podcast would definitely be for you. Now we can discuss and highlight a little bit about what the purpose of CoSeCity as a podcast is, and also to share why and the reason why we're doing this just over the next few minutes. That would be superb.
Okay. Yeah. So do you want to jump into what our listeners can expect from CoSeCity or from us, really?
I kind of already started, but I would start my statement with welcome to Governance Without the Jargon.
Mm-hmm.
This podcast aimed to make governance as accessible as possible. Each episode, we would unpack a topic from ESG to board dynamics to risks, regulatory changes, and so much more. We're going to have conversations with some exciting experts in different aspects of corporate governance, and also not necessarily just governance professionals as well. So I am definitely really looking forward to subsequent episodes where we would invite experts to join the conversation.
Yeah, we'll give you real world insights. So whether you're a student or a recent graduate or mid-career professional thinking about pivoting, I definitely think that it's worth a listen for you.
And we'll bring on industry guests, as I said. The main purpose of this, just to expand, is to answer questions from listeners. So we would encourage you to send in your comments and share tools that you can actually use in a practical setting in your work. And for those of us that are still, or those that are listeners that are still studying in your studies as well on your route to get qualified.
Yeah, so now we can, I guess, move on to why governance matters. I guess the question really is, what is corporate governance? And I would describe it as a system that guides how businesses are directed, controlled, and held accountable. So I think the best analogy would be an operating system. So it just makes sure that decisions aren't just made, but they are made very, very well.
And by the way, when we say company secretary, there's been a lot of misconception as to what that terminology means and represents. And in this podcast, we would definitely expand and clarify what that stands for. For me, a company secretary is the governance linchpin in a business, ensuring the board is effective, the company is compliant, and decisions are made transparently. So that goes into from reporting to ensuring that the governance policies and framework of the business is top notch.
Exactly. I mean, they connect the boardroom to the business and like a bridge between vision and execution. And in many cases, they're the ones making sure that the business runs with integrity and long-term focus, of course, with, the help of other teams. But
yeah. And then there's the side of risk management. Governance helps organizations not just spot risks early, but also manage them proactively. From financial to legal risk to reputational ones, it's like a safety net sometimes that keeps companies stable.
Yep, exactly right.
Accountability also is key. A company isn't just answerable to its shareholders. It has responsibility to its stakeholders as well, as we know, staff, customers, regulators, and the wider community as a whole as well.
Well, then there's transparency. So good governance again means sharing a clear, accurate, and accessible information. It's about building trust with everybody that's involved with the organization, all the way from the employees to the investors to the communities that the companies actually operate in, isn't it? So
yeah, I'm glad you picked up on that point, Neo. And also governance isn't also about avoiding problems. It gives businesses strategic advantage. It makes businesses more investable, more resilient, and better prepared to grow sustainably.
I think especially now is like when it's very evident that people care very much about what companies, like how companies operate, as to what they do. So governance links directly to ethics, sustainability, and long-term impact. I mean, I know for a fact that you wouldn't invest in a company if you knew full well that it was, I don't know, should we say, dumping chemicals into rivers and,
Mm.
killing wildlife.
No, I wouldn't. I wouldn't. You're right. You're right.
Yeah.
Exactly. Long-term impact is crucial.
Exactly.
Whether you're working in a startup, a multinational, or a non-profit, getting governance right matters. It helps create organizations that are future-proof.
hmm
So, I think we're coming to the end of our first episode. This
Yeah.
is an introductory chit chat about what the podcast would aim to achieve. As we wrap up this first episode, we hope this gave you, our listeners, a clearer picture of not just what this podcast aims to achieve, but what governance is and why it matters.
Yeah, I think a good flavor, of what we would be looking to talk about. And in our next episode, I think we'll be unpacking the core principles of corporate governance and how they play out in real business settings.
Right, and I get to do the delightful announcement to telling you that if you find this helpful, please follow, share it with someone who's exploring a career path in corporate governance or anyone you think this would be useful to, and let us know what topics you'd love us to uncover.
Yes, definitely your participation is important to keep us going for sure. But
Yeah,
thank you so much for giving us your time. And
speak soon.